If anyone finds this recording, if anyone climbs the 612 steps to reach this glass coffin in the sky, don't touch the windows. Just don't. If there's condensation on the inside, you're fine. If the condensation is on the outside, if it looks like green pollen or heavy dust, keep your mask on, assuming you have one. Assuming there are masks left in the world. My name is Elias Thorne. I am, or I was, the fire lookout for Sector 4, Black Ridge. I'm recording this on a battery-operated field recorder meant for logging smoke reports and weather patterns. Now it's just a testament, a proof of life. I came up here to get away from the noise. That's the irony that keeps me awake at night now. I wanted silence. I wanted to look at a horizon that wasn't broken by skyscrapers or server farms. I wanted to be alone. Be careful what you wish for, right? The universe has a sick sense of humor. Let me describe where I am, so you understand the geometry of my prison. The station is officially called The Needle. It's an Osborne firefinder lookout, built in 1954, renovated in the late 90s, and then mostly forgotten until the Forest Service needed bodies for the dry season. It sits on a granite spur of the northern Cascades, elevation 6,800 feet. To get here, you drive 4 hours on a logging road that destroys your suspension. Then you hike 6 miles up a trail that is less of a path and more of a goat track. Then the stairs, a wooden staircase bolted directly into the rock face, winding up the final spire of stone. The tower itself is standard, a 14 by 14 foot cabin. A catwalk wraps around the exterior. Inside, it's all function. In the center, the Osborne Firefinder, a large circular topographic map with a sighting mechanism mounted on a pedestal. It looks like a bizarre altar to some geography god. There's a bunk built into the wall, a propane stove, a small desk, and windows, walls of glass on all 4 sides, 360-degree views of absolutely nothing but timber, rock, and sky. When I arrived, the ranger, a guy named Miller, gruff, smelled like chewing tobacco and pine resin, he slapped the doorframe and said, "It's a fishbowl, Elias. You're the fish, the forest is the cat. Don't let it drive you crazy." He left me with 6 weeks of supplies, a radio repeater code, and a handshake. That was 22 days ago. I haven't heard a human voice in 5 days. The first 2 weeks were exactly what I wanted. Boring. Beautifully boring. You wake up with the sun. Up here, the light hits you before it hits the valleys. You watch the shadow of the mountain retreat across the tree line. You make coffee. That routine became my religion. The hiss of the propane, the smell of the grounds, shipped from a roaster in Portland, my one luxury, the steam rising against the cold glass. My job was simple. Every hour, scan the quadrants, check for smoke, check for lightning strikes, radio in the all clear to central dispatch at 800, 1200, and 1600. Sector 4 to central, visibility 10 miles, wind 5 knots from the northwest, no smoke. Copy, Sector 4. Have a good one, Elias. That was it. That was the extent of my existence. In between, I read. I sketched the ridgeline. I slept. It was peaceful. The silence was natural. It was the sound of wind in the Douglas firs, the cry of a red-tailed hawk, the distant rumble of a jetliner cruising at 30,000 feet. It was the sound of a living world. I remember day 14 clearly. It was the last normal day. The sunset was violent, a bruise of purple and orange stretching across the Pacific to the west. I sat on the catwalk, legs dangling through the railing, drinking a bourbon. I felt healed. I thought I had escaped the burnout of the city. I thought I was safe. It didn't start with an explosion. There were no sirens, no mushroom clouds on the horizon. It started with the smell. It was mid-afternoon. I was doing the 1600 scan. I had the sights of the Osborne Finder lined up on the western ridge, looking at a patch of old-growth cedar. I remember frowning because the focus seemed off. The air looked thick, like heat haze, but it was only 60 degrees out. Then the smell hit me. Even through the closed windows, I could taste it. It wasn't smoke. It smelled like ozone, rich soil, and crushed flowers. It was sickly sweet, like lilies left too long in a vase, mixed with the sharp tang of copper. I went to the radio. Sector 4 to Central, I've got atmospheric weirdness in Quadrant 3. Possible chemical spill? Over. Static. Not the normal white noise of an open channel. This was different. It sounded wet, a rhythmic pulsing crackle, like breathing. Sector 4, this is Sector 4. Do you copy? Nothing. I checked the repeater settings. I checked the battery bank. Everything was green. I stepped out onto the catwalk to check the antenna. That's when I felt the vibration. It wasn't the ground shaking. It was the air, a low-frequency thrum right at the base of the cull. It made my teeth ache. I looked down into the valley, 2,000 feet below. The fog was rolling in. But fog is white or gray. This was yellow, a pale bioluminescent chartreuse. It flowed like water, heavy and fast, pouring through the gaps in the mountains, filling the valley floor like a bowl. And where the fog touched, the color of the forest changed. I grabbed my binoculars. I focused on a stand of pine trees at the edge of the fog bank, maybe 3 miles out. As the mist hit them, they didn't burn. They shivered. The needles turned from a deep, dark green to a vibrant neon emerald instantly.
I watched for an hour. The fog didn't rise. It settled. It created a sea of yellow clouds below me. The vibration stopped. The radio remained dead. And then the birds fell. It was raining crows and hawks and smaller songbirds. They just dropped out of the sky, tumbling past my tower, plummeting into the fog below. They didn't flap. They were just off, like a switch had been flipped. I went inside. I locked the door. I put tape over the vents. I don't know why I did that. Instinct, I guess. I sat in the middle of the room, under the Osborne finder, and waited for the radio to crackle. It never did.
The first 48 hours were a study in denial. I convinced myself it was a localized event. A tanker truck overturned on the highway miles away. A forest fire that released some weird combustion byproduct. The military testing something. I spent day 18 trying to hike down. I packed a bag, water, first aid, map. I opened the door of the lookout and stepped onto the stairs. The air up here was still clear, though it smelled faintly of that copper lily sweetness. I made it down the first 4 switchbacks of the stairs. I was about 200 feet below the tower, still high above the tree line. The granite was cold under my hand. Then I saw the deer. It was a mule deer buck. It must have climbed up the goat track to escape the valley. It was standing on a ledge about 50 yards below me. It wasn't moving. It was staring up at the sun. I shouted at it, "Hey, move!" It didn't flinch. I grabbed a pebble and tossed it. The stone clattered near its hooves. Nothing. I climbed down a bit further, getting my binoculars on it. The deer wasn't staring. It was blind. Its eyes were covered in moss. Not covered, replaced. Thick, velvety green moss grew out of the sockets. And it wasn't just the eyes. Vines, thin as spider webs, were pulsing under the skin of its flank. I could see them moving, writhing like veins. The animal was breathing, but the breath came out as a puff of yellow dust, spores. As I watched, the buck's legs simply folded. It didn't fall like a dead weight. It sank. It lay down on the rock, and within seconds, I swear to God, within seconds, the granite around it began to fuzz with green. The animal was merging with the mountain. I backed up. I backed up so fast I nearly tripped and fell off the edge. I scrambled back up those stairs, lungs burning, heart hammering a hole in my ribs. I slammed the lookout door and threw the deadbolt. I realized then, the stairs don't lead to safety. They lead to the fog. I am not trapped by walls. I am trapped by altitude. I need to be rational. I am an engineer. I solve problems. Panic is just a variable I need to isolate and remove. I did an inventory today. If Miller's schedule was right, a resupply helicopter wasn't due for another 3 weeks. Here is what I have. 22 gallons of potable water in the gravity tank, 12 propane canisters for the stove, canned food, beans, chili, peaches, Spam, enough for maybe 20 days if I eat normally, 40 if I starve myself, dried goods, rice, pasta, oats, coffee, essential, a flare gun with 3 flares, a Forest Service axe, a toolkit, binoculars, this recorder. The water is the problem. The tank is fed by a rainwater catchment system on the roof, but if the air is contaminated, if the rain brings the spores, I disconnected the downspout today. I can't risk new water entering the tank. I have what I have. When it's gone, it's gone. The view has changed again. The fog has lifted slightly, or maybe dissipated. I can see the valley floor now. It's wrong. The scale is wrong. The trees, the Douglas firs that were maybe 200 feet tall, they look massive. They look swollen. In 3 days, the canopy seems to have risen by 50 feet. And the color, it's a hyper-saturated, violent green. It hurts the eyes. There are no gaps in the forest anymore. No roads visible. The logging road I drove him on? Gone. Consumed. I tried the radio again tonight. I sat there for 3 hours, scanning every frequency. AM, FM, shortwave, emergency bands. At 2100 hours, I picked up something on Channel 9. It wasn't a voice. It was a rhythmic thumping. Thump, 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 like someone hitting a microphone against a leg. "Hello?" I screamed. "This is Black Ridge Lookout. Is someone there?" The thumping stopped. Then a sound.
It sounded like a scream, but woody, like a tree splitting in a storm, but pitched like a human voice. A dry, tearing shriek that went on for 10 seconds, then silence, then the static returned. I turned the radio off. I don't think I want to hear what's on the other end.
Sleep is difficult. The silence isn't silent anymore. Last night the wind shifted. It blew up from the valley, carrying the sound of the forest with it. Down there, things are moving, large things. I could hear branches snapping, thick branches, the kind that sound like gunshots when they break. Something was pushing through the timber. I lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, clutching the axe I brought inside from the emergency box. Around 0300, I heard a sound on the stairs. The stairs are wood. They creak. I know every squeak of those 612 steps. I heard the bottom landing groan. Step, creak, step. Something was coming up. I sat up, freezing. I didn't turn on the lantern. I didn't want to be a beacon. I crawled across the floor to the window overlooking the stairs. The moon was half full, casting a pale silver light on the granite. I looked down through the glass floor panel near the door. About 50 feet down, on the third switchback, there was a shadow. It looked human. 2 arms, 2 legs, but the proportions were elongated. The arms hung too low. It was climbing slowly, jerkily. I held my breath. I watched it take another step. It paused. It lifted its head. I couldn't see a face. I saw blooms. Where the head should have been, there was a cluster of what looked like oversized hydrangeas pulsing in the moonlight. It stood there for 5 minutes, just swaying in the wind. Then it turned around and walked back down. It didn't leave because it was scared. It left because it wasn't ready. They know I'm here. The forest knows I'm here. I spent the rest of the night reinforcing the door. I took the bookshelf and shoved it against the frame. I nailed spare planks across the lower windows. It feels ridiculous. I'm in a glass box. If they want in, they can get in. but it made me feel like I was doing something other than waiting to die. The sun came up an hour ago. The green in the valley looks brighter today, and I noticed something new. Vines. Thin, creeping vines are starting to crawl up the granite pillars that support this tower. They weren't there yesterday. They're climbing the stone. They are coming up to meet me.
Time is becoming elastic. Without the radio check-ins, without the sunrise marking a shift change, the days are bleeding into the nights. I've started making marks on the wall with a Sharpie. 4 vertical lines, 1 diagonal slash, the classic prisoner's calendar. The vines are the clock now. I call them the climbers. They aren't ivy, they aren't kudzu. They're something thick, vascular, and pale green, like the stems of tulips if tulips were the size of fire hoses. I've been tracking their progress. On day 21, they were at the base of the granite spur. Today, day 25, the leading tendrils have wrapped around the first steel support strut of the tower. That is a vertical climb of 60 feet in 4 days. They move in spurts. I watched them through the spotting scope yesterday for 6 hours straight. They sit dormant, looking like normal vegetation. Then you hear a sound, a wet, popping noise, like knuckles cracking underwater, and a tendril shoots forward 3 inches, wraps tight and hardens. It's not just growth, it's leverage. They are testing the anchor points. I can hear the metal groaning at night now. The tower is steel and wood, bolted into rock. It's designed to withstand 100-mile-an-hour winds and heavy snow loads. It was not designed to be squeezed. The groaning sounds like a submarine diving too deep. Creak. Pop. I'm sleeping with earplugs in, not because I want to block out the noise, but because I'm terrified that if I listen too closely, I'll hear the bolts shearing. I need to understand the enemy. Miller said I was the fish in the bowl, but an engineer doesn't just swim, he analyzes the tank. I decided to run a test. I needed a sample. The catwalk is still clear, mostly. The climbers haven't reached the deck grading yet, but the wind blows spores and debris up here constantly. I put on my mask, a heavy-duty N95 I found in the emergency kit, and taped the edges to my face. I pulled on my leather work gloves. I unlocked the door. The air pressure change popped my ears. The smell is worse now. It's no longer just flowers and copper. It smells like fermentation, like a compost heap that's caught fire. I went out to the railing. A large leaf, maybe the size of a dinner plate, had blown up and gotten stuck in the wire mesh. It was vibrating slightly, even though there was no wind. I grabbed it with tongs from the kitchen. As soon as I pulled it free, it shrieked, a microscopic high-pitched whistle. It curled up instantly, wrapping around the metal tongs so tight I couldn't shake it off. I brought it inside and threw it into a glass jar, screwing the lid down tight. I've been watching it for hours. It's not a leaf, not entirely. It has veins, yes, but they pulse with a dark, viscous purple fluid. And it reacts to light. If I shine my flashlight on it, it presses against the glass. If I tap the jar, it recoils. It's photosensitive and responsive to vibration. That explains the deer, the silence. The creatures down there, they hunt by sound and vibration. The moss dampens the noise of the forest, making it a soundproof room, so any noise you make stands out like a flare in the dark. I looked at my boots, heavy, rubber-soled logging boots. Every step I take on this hollow wooden floor must sound like a drumbeat to the things climbing the struts. I took my boots off. I'm wearing 3 pairs of wool socks now. I glide across the floor.
I whisper to the recorder. I am becoming a ghost in my own home. Thirst is a dull headache that sits behind your eyes and never leaves. I'm down to 15 gallons. That sounds like a lot, but I'm drinking almost a gallon a day because the anxiety makes me sweat, and the dry mountain air sucks the moisture right out of your skin. I disconnected the catchment system, but I can hear the rain hitting the roof. It's raining constantly now. Not water, sludge. A thin yellow-green drizzle that coats the glass. It obscures the view, turning the world outside into an impressionist painting of nightmares. I had to clean the windows today, not for the view, but for the solar still. I'm building a purification system. I took the plastic sheeting from the emergency blankets and rigged a condensation trap in the south-facing window. The sun hits the glass, heats the air inside the trap, and hopefully pure water condenses on the plastic and drips into a cup. It's slow, agonizingly slow, maybe a cup a day. While I was cleaning the yellow sludge off the exterior glass, leaning out over the catwalk with a squeegee on a pole, I looked down. The climbers have reached the stairs. The wooden staircase is being swallowed. The vines are weaving through the steps, filling the gaps. It looks like a green carpet unrolling upwards. And I saw something else. Nests. About halfway down, anchored to the rock face where the stairs turn, there are sacs. Translucent gelatinous pods the size of watermelons hanging from the vines. I use the binoculars. Inside the pods there are shapes, curled up, fetal. They aren't birds. They look like raccoons? Maybe coyotes? It's hard to tell because the moss has covered them entirely. They are incubating, changing. One of the pods twitched while I watched, a limb pressed against the membrane. It wasn't a paw. It looked like a root ending in thorns. They are weaponizing the wildlife.
Contact. I almost missed it. I was lying on the floor, staring at the dust motes dancing in a beam of sunlight, half asleep. The radio was on scan, low volume, just a wash of static I use for white noise. Then a break. Anyone? High ground? Repeat. I scrambled to the desk, sliding in my socks, nearly knocking over the Osborne finder. I cranked the volume. Sector 9. Bunker. Compromised. Looking for... This is Sector 4, I screamed, forgetting my rule about whispering. This is Elias at the Needle. I copy. Silence. Just the hiss of the atmosphere. Then, Sector 4? Jesus. You're alive? The voice was male, strained, coughing. I'm here, I said, my hands shaking so bad I dropped the mic. I picked it up. Who is this? This is Eris, Geology Survey Team, Mount Rainier Monitoring Station. I'm underground, sub-basement. Rainier, that's 60 miles south. Eris, what is happening? What is the fog? It's not fog. It's a rapid evolution event. Spores. We drilled. We were taking core samples near the magma chamber. We hit a pocket. Pressurized. It blew the rig. It terraforms, Elias. It rewrites DNA to maximize photosynthesis and defense. Against what? Us. We're the invasive species. Its immune response. Planetary scale. I stared out the window at the endless green ocean. Is there help? Is the military coming? Eris laughed. It was a wet, bubbling sound. The military burned the I-5 corridor 3 days ago. Napalm. It didn't work. The fire just fed it. The heat accelerated the spore release. Seattle is gone, Elias. Tacoma is gone. They aren't coming. So what do we do? Stay high, Eris said. His voice was getting weaker. It hates the cold. It slows down above 5,000 feet. That's why you're still talking. The air is too thin, too cold for the primary density. But it's adapting. It's climbing. Eris? My vents are clogged. The scrubbers failed an hour ago. There's flowers growing out of the comms panel. Pretty. Blue. Listen to me. Don't let it touch you. Don't breathe it. And for God's sake, don't let it hear you. Eris! The line clicked. Then the static returned. I sat there for an hour holding the microphone. I am not just isolated. I am extinct. We are all extinct. We just haven't stopped moving yet. The tower has been breached. It happened at sunset. I was cooking rice. The smell of the food must have been too strong, or maybe I dropped a spoon. I heard the glass crack. Not a window, the floor. In the corner of the cabin near the bunk, there is a small glass panel in the floor, designed so lookouts can check the base of the tower without going outside. I heard a tink, then a spiderweb fracture appeared in the reinforced glass. I froze. A tip of a vine, thick as a thumb, was pressing against the glass from below. It was vibrating, drilling. It had a thorn on the end, black and serrated like a shark's tooth. Crunch. The glass gave way. The vine shot into the room like a snake striking. It whipped around, searching. It sensed the heat of the propane stove. It lunged toward the flame. I didn't think. I grabbed the axe. I swung with everything I had. The blade hit the vine against the floorboards. It didn't feel like chopping wood. It felt like chopping frozen meat. Tough, fibrous. The vine thrashed. It sprayed sap, purple, acidic stuff that hissed when it hit the floor varnish. I chopped again and again. Finally, I severed it. The tip fell onto the rug, writhing like a severed lizard tail. The rest of the vine recoiled, retracting back through the hole in the floor. I slammed the heavy emergency trunk over the hole. I piled the propane tanks on top of it. I stood there, chest heaving, covered in sweat. The purple sap was smoking on the axe blade. I looked out the window. The climbers are at the catwalk level. I can see the tops of the vines peering over the edge of the decking. They're encircling the cabin. They found a way in. They tasted the air inside. They know where the heat is. They know where the meat is. Eris said they adapt. Tonight the moon is full. I can see them silhouetted against the glass, hundreds of curling tendrils, tapping gently on the windows. Tap, tap, tap. They're not trying to break in with force anymore. They're searching for the seals. They're looking for the weak points. I have to go out there. If I stay inside, they will surround the box and crush it, or fill it with spores. I have to clear the catwalk. I have to cut them back. But I can't go out there as I am. I'm looking at the supplies, the duct tape, the plastic sheeting, the rain gear. I have to build a suit. I have to become something unnatural to fight nature. I'm going to start at dawn. If this is my last entry, well, at least I didn't just sit here and wait to be turned into fertilizer. My name is Elias Thorne, and I am going to prune the garden. I spent the night becoming a monster. If I'm going to step out into that alien atmosphere, I cannot be human. Humans are soft. We are porous. We are walking petri dishes waiting to be seeded. I built an exoskeleton of garbage. I started with my base layer, thermal underwear, 2 pairs of jeans, 3 flannel shirts. Then the armor. I took the heavy-duty yellow rain slicker, the standard-issue Forest Service rubberized PVC, and I sealed it. I used 4 rolls of duct tape. I taped the cuffs to my gloves. I taped the pant legs to my boots. I taped the waist. I taped the zipper flak. For the head, I improvised. I have the N95 mask, but that's not enough for the eyes or the exposed skin. I took a clear plastic storage bin, one of the ones I used for dried pasta, and I cut a hole in the bottom. I slid it over my head like a helmet. I used foam weather stripping to create a seal around my neck, then taped that down to the collar of the slicker. Breathing is loud. The plastic bin amplifies every rasp of my lungs. My breath fogs the plastic immediately, so I had to rig a rudimentary exhaust valve using a piece of garden hose and a one-way flutter valve I cannibalized from the sink plumbing. I look in the reflection of the dark window. I don't look like a hero. I look like a frantic yellow insect, a distinct bright lure against the green world. I have my weapons. The axe, sharpened with a whetstone until it could shave hair, a serrated hunting knife strapped to my thigh with, you guessed it, more tape, and a spray bottle filled with bleach. I don't know if bleach hurts them, but it kills mold in a bathroom, so it's the best chemical warfare I have. I am standing at the door. My heart rate is 140. I measured it. The tapping on the glass has stopped. They know I'm coming. Or they are waiting. Opening the door. The first thing that hits you isn't the smell. The suit blocks that. It's the humidity. Stepping out of the cabin onto the catwalk was like walking into a throat. The air was wet, heavy, and hot. The temperature outside must be 80 degrees, even at this altitude. The vegetation is generating its own heat, a biological fever. The catwalk is metal grating. Or it was. Now it's a lattice of green. The vines, the climbers, had woven themselves through the steel mesh. They were thick, pulsating cables, dark green with purple striations. They didn't look like plants. They looked like muscle fibers stripped of skin. I stepped carefully. I didn't want to trip. I didn't want to tear the suit. I started on the north face, where the infestation was thickest. The vines were wrapped around the main structural pillars, squeezing. The steel beams were actually bowing inward slightly. The torque on them must be immense. I raised the axe. Don't make noise. Don't make noise. I swung. Not a chaotic chop, but a controlled, heavy strike. The axe bit into the thickest vine. It didn't crunch. It squished. A thick, gelatinous resistance. Then, the snap. The severed vine whipped back, thrashing against the metal railing like a live wire, and it screamed, a high tea kettle whistle that vibrated through the soles of my boots. Suddenly, the whole tower shuddered. All around the catwalk, the other vines tightened. They reacted to the injury. The railing groaned. I panicked. Just for a second, I wanted to run back inside, but I realized that if I stopped, they would just squeeze harder. They would pop the cabin like a grape. So I worked. Chop, pull, spray. I fell into a rhythm. Sever the vine, dodge the spray, pour bleach on the stump, watch it wither and turn black. It took me an hour to clear the north face. My arms were burning. The air inside my helmet was stale and tasted of recycled fear. I moved to the east face. That's where the stairs are. Or where the stairs were. I froze. The staircase is gone. It hasn't collapsed. It has been absorbed. The vines have completely encased the wooden structure, weaving it into a solid ramp of biomass. It looks like a green slide leading down into the fog. And on that ramp, about 20 feet down, something was moving. It was one of the pods, the ones I saw incubating days ago. It had fallen from the vine and burst open on the mossy ramp. I watched through the fogged plastic of my helmet. Something was pulling itself out of the amniotic sac. It was small, maybe the size of a terrier. It was slick with slime. It had the head of a raccoon, the masked eyes, the snout, but the fur was gone. Instead, its skin was a mosaic of bark and scales. And its back, growing out of its spine, were 3 long, fern-like stalks. They unfurled as I watched, shaking off the slime. They twitched, orienting themselves. Sensory organs. The creature shook its head, sneezing out a cloud of yellow spores. It looked up. It didn't have eyes anymore, just those mossy patches. But the ferns on its back turned toward me, toward the heat of my body, toward the vibration of my breathing. It hissed, a sound like dry leaves rubbing together, and it started to climb. It didn't run, it scuttled. Its claws dug into the vines, finding purchase instantly. It was fast, unnaturally fast. I gripped the axe. I was trapped on the catwalk. The door to the cabin was behind me, but if I opened it, this thing would follow me inside. I had to kill it. It reached the landing. It reared up on its hind legs, sniffing the air. The ferns on its back vibrated. It let out a chittering screech and lunged. I swung the axe. I missed the head. I hit the shoulder. The blade buried itself in the creature's tough, bark-like skin. It didn't bleed red. It bled white, a thick, milky sap. The creature didn't even scream. It clamped its jaws onto the handle of the axe. Its teeth were serrated thorns. It tried to wrench the weapon from my hands. I kicked it. I drove my heavy logging boot into its chest. It flew backward, hitting the railing, but it didn't fall. Its tail, which was a long, prehensile root, whipped around the balustrade and held it fast. It pulled itself back up, jaws snapping. I grabbed the spray bottle of bleach. I didn't know if it would work on complex life, but it was all I had. I squeezed the trigger, aiming for the sensory ferns on its back. A stream of bleach hit the stalks. The reaction was immediate. The creature convulsed. The ferns shriveled and turned black instantly, smoking. The creature screeched, a human-sounding scream of agony. It lost its grip on the railing. It fell. I watched it tumble down into the yellow fog, trashing and squealing, until the mist swallowed it. I stood there, gasping for air inside my plastic box. My visor was smeared with purple sap and white fluid. I looked at the axe handle. There were deep gouges in the hickory wood where the thing had bitten it. I turned and ran for the door. I stripped the suit off in the airlock, a small entryway I'd created with a hanging tarp. I cut the tape. I peeled the slicker off. I wiped everything down with the last of the bleach wipes. I checked my skin. I checked every inch, between my toes, under my arms, behind my ears. I found a spot. On my left wrist, right where the glove met the sleeve. There must have been a micro tear in the tape, a pinhole. There is a rash. It's small, the size of a dime. It's not red, it's iridescent. It shimmers slightly under the flashlight. It doesn't itch, it burns. A cold burn, like dry ice. I scrubbed it. I scrubbed it with steel wool and dish soap until I was bleeding. I poured rubbing alcohol on it. The blood came out red. That's good. Red is good. But the shimmering didn't go away. It's under the skin. I bandaged it, tight. I put a tourniquet loosely above the elbow, just in case I need to escalate. I'm sitting in the dark now. The tower is quiet. I cleared the vines from the structural supports, so the groaning is stopped, for now. But I know what I saw down there. The stairs are gone, the wildlife is weaponized, and the fog is rising. I checked the altimeter on my watch. The air pressure is dropping. The safe zone Aris talked about, the altitude limit, it's changing. The fog is adapting to the cold. It's climbing the mountain, following the vines. I have maybe 3 days before the fog layer breaches the catwalk height. Once the fog hits the windows, I won't be able to see the sun. I won't be able to use the solar still. And if the fog gets in... I looked at the jar on my desk, the leaf sample I took weeks ago. It has changed. It's not a leaf anymore. It has grown fuzz. It has grown teeth. It is pressing against the glass, tapping, tap, tap, tap. It wants to go home. The rash on my arm hasn't spread, but the color has changed. It is now a deep, bruising violet. But that's not the headline today. The headline is what I saw when the wind blew the fog apart for 10 seconds at noon. I was looking north, toward the next peak over, Mount Shuksan. The mountain is fuzzy. The entire north face of Shuksan is covered in green. But it wasn't random growth. I used the high-power spotting scope. The trees on the ridge, the way the vines were draping between them, they were forming shapes, structures. Massive organic bridges connecting the peaks, webs of biomass stretching across canyons that are a mile wide. They aren't just growing, they are building. And in the center of the web, suspended over the valley floor by cables of vine the size of suspension bridges, there was a heart. A pulsating green mass the size of a stadium. It was beating. Thump, thump. I realized then that Aris was wrong. It's not just an immune response. It's not just mindless biology. It's a hive. It has a center. It has a brain. And I am sitting in a glass box, holding an axe, staring at God's replacement. I can't stay here. The water is almost gone. The food is low. The fog is rising. And I am infected. I have two choices. I can stay here, and eventually the vines will pull this tower down, or the fog will suffocate me, or the thing on my arm will turn me into one of those pods. Or I can jump. Not to my death, but to the only thing that might save me. There is a zip line. It was installed 10 years ago for equipment transport to the lower supply depot, which sits on a rocky outcropping about a half-mile down the ridge, but crucially, across a wide chasm. The depot is concrete, bunker-style, sealed. If the line is still intact, if the anchor points haven't been eaten, I could slide over the fog. I could bypass the forest floor entirely. The depot has a radio repeater, a military-grade one. Maybe I can reach someone who isn't dying in a hole like Aris. I went to the anchor bolt on the deck. It's rusted, but the cable, steel-braided wire, looks clean. The vines haven't touched it yet. Cold steel doesn't taste good to them. I have a climbing harness. I have a carabiner. I looked at the cable disappearing into the yellow soup below. I can't see the other end. I don't know if the depot is safe. I don't know if the cable snaps halfway. But I look at my arm. The violet spot is pulsing. I'm leaving tomorrow. If you find this recorder in the tower, and I'm not here, look down the line. If you see a yellow raincoat hanging over the abyss, don't pull it up.
I took the recorder. I said I'd leave it, but vanity, I guess. Or maybe I just need to hear a voice, even if it's my own screaming. If I splatter on the rocks below, at least this little black box will record the thud. I am standing on the railing of the south deck. The wind is howling, whipping the yellow slicker against my legs. It sounds like a tarp flapping in a hurricane. The fog has breached. It's washing over the floor of the catwalk now. It's cold and smells like sulfur and crushed petals. I have the harness on. It's an old Petzl rock climbing rig I found in the emergency locker. It's stiff with age. I inspected the stitching under a magnifying glass. It looks okay. Not great. Okay. I'm clipped to the steel cable with a heavy-duty steel pulley. I have a backup carabiner clipped behind it. A safety. A joke. There is no safety. The cable disappears into the yellow soup about 50 feet out. I can't see the depot. I can't see the landing zone. I am trusting a 10-year-old rust-resistant coating and gravity. The infection on my arm is throbbing. It feels like it's vibrating in time with the wind. I have my pack, water, the axe, the flare gun. I'm looking back at the cabin one last time. My prison, my sanctuary. The windows are already clouding over with green condensation. It looks like an aquarium that hasn't been cleaned in years. Okay, physics. Mass times acceleration. Don't think about the height. Don't think about the monsters. 3, 2, 1. I made it. Oh God, I made it. Let me catalog the jump while the adrenaline is still shaking my hands. When I stepped off the rail, the drop was sickening.
The cable had slack. I free fell for maybe 10 feet before the cable snapped taut. The harness dug into my thighs so hard I thought it severed the femoral artery. Then the slide. Speed builds exponentially on a line that steep. The sound of the steel pulley screaming against the cable was deafening. Ree! Like a banshee. I hit the fog bank 3 seconds in. It wasn't like driving through mist. It was like hitting a wall of water. The air was thick, gelatinous. Visibility dropped to 0. I was flying blind through a yellow void. Then I dropped below the fog ceiling. I saw the forest floor from above. It's a coral reef. That's the only way to describe it. The trees aren't trees anymore. They're pillars of pulsating green flesh. The branches are tentacles swaying in a current of air that doesn't exist. And the things living in them? I flew past a Douglas fir about halfway across the chasm. I was moving maybe 40 miles an hour. Perched on the top branches, right at my eye level, was something massive. It looked like a moth, but the size of a hang glider. Its wings were made of leaves, perfect, symmetrical, overlapping leaves. It had no head, just a cluster of red sensory berries where the thorax should be. It reacted to the sound of my pulley. It launched itself into the air, trying to intercept me. I saw its legs, long, thorny hooks, snatch at the air inches behind my boots. Then I was past it. The landing. I saw the concrete platform of the depot rushing up out of the mist. It's built on a rock spur, isolated from the forest by a 50-foot drop on all sides, a natural island. But the cable sagged. I wasn't going to make the platform. I was going to hit the lip of the concrete. I curled my legs up. I screamed. Wham! My boots hit the edge of the concrete pad. The impact jarred my teeth. The pulley slammed into the stopper block a split second later. The momentum swung me forward, slamming my chest into the concrete retaining wall. The wind got knocked out of me. I hung there, dangling over the abyss, held only by the harness. Below me, maybe 100 feet down, the green canopy was writhing. Vines were reaching up, sensing the impact. I unclipped the safety. I grabbed the concrete lip with my gloved hands. I pulled. The suit made it hard. The plastic helmet banged against the rock. But I scrambled up. I rolled onto the flat gray surface of the depot roof. I lay there for a minute, staring up at the yellow sky, just listening to my heart try to beat its way out of my ribs. I checked the suit. No tears. I checked the axe, still strapped to the pack. I stood up. The depot is a bunker. Concrete block, flat roof, steel blast doors. No windows. It looks like a tomb, and it is completely overgrown. Not with the aggressive vines. The concrete seems to repel them slightly, but with a fine velvet moss. I walked to the door. It has a wheel handle like a submarine hatch. It was rusted shut? No, it was welded shut. From the inside. There were weld marks around the frame. Someone had sealed themselves in. Panic started to set in. If I couldn't get in, I was dead. I was exposed on this platform. The moth thing knew where I was. I checked the vents, the air intake shafts on the roof. They were covered with heavy steel mesh, but the mesh was bolted, not welded. I took the toolkit from my pack. I used the wrench. The bolts were stiff, corroded, but they turned. I pulled the mesh grate off. The shaft was dark, square, about 3 feet wide. Tight, but big enough. I dropped my pack in first, then I slid in feet first. It was a 10-foot drop. I landed on a metal grate in a utility room. It was pitch black. I turned on my headlamp. The beam cut through the dust. The air inside is different. It's stale, dead, but it doesn't smell like the flowers. It smells like diesel and ozone. I'm inside. I'm safe from the forest. But
I'm not alone. I've explored the perimeter of the interior. The depot is smaller than I thought. A main storage room, a generator room, silent, a small bunk room, and a comms office. There is power, minimal power. Emergency strip lighting is running on red. It gives the whole place a bloody submarine vibe. The hum of a backup battery bank is the only sound. I found the source of the welding. In the main hallway, there is a corpse. It's sitting against the blast door. It looks like a he, judging by the remains of the uniform, is holding a welding torch in one hand and a pistol in the other. He didn't shoot himself. He starved. He sealed the door, sat down, and waited. I checked his pockets. ID tag says Sergeant Miller. Not the Ranger Miller I met. Different guy, National Guard. Why seal the door from the inside if the threat is outside? Unless you're trying to keep something in? I swept the rooms with the axe raised. The storage room is fully stocked. Crates of MREs, water drums, blankets, first aid. I opened a crate of MREs, beef stew. I ate 2 packets cold, shivering in the red light. It was the best meal of my life. Then I went to the comms room. This is the gold mine. There is a military-grade radio rig, high-frequency, encrypted channels, and a computer terminal. The screen was sleep mode black. I touched the keyboard. It woke up. It asked for a password. I tried password. Nothing. I tried 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing. I looked at Sergeant Miller's body again. He had a notebook in his front pocket, a small write-in-the-rain pad. I opened it. The last few pages are frantic scrawls, coordinates, timestamps, and a code. Prometheus 7. I typed it in. The screen flashed green. Access granted. I'm reading the logs now. My God. It wasn't a core drilling accident. Eris was wrong, or Eris was lied to. This wasn't nature fighting back. This was a project. Project Chloris. According to these files, the military was testing a bioagent designed for rapid reforestation, a way to combat climate change, a super seed capable of reclaiming arid land in months. They tested it here because of the isolation, but the agent mutated. It didn't just reclaim land, it aggressively competed for resources. It identified mammals as carbon sources. There's a log entry from 3 weeks ago, just before the fog hit my tower. Command: containment breach in Sector 9. The Queen has woken up. Response: initiate protocol Scorched Earth. The Queen? I kept reading. Subject 0, the primary organism, located in the magma vents beneath Mount Rainier. It's essentially a neural network made of fungal synapses. It controls the growth radius. I looked at my arm, the violet spot. I took the bandages off. In the red light of the bunker, the spot isn't violet anymore. It's glowing, a soft, rhythmic pulse. I looked at the computer screen. There is a map of the infestation zone. There's a blinking red dot labeled "You are here," and there is a blinking blue dot labeled "Evacuation Point." It's not south. It's not toward the cities. It's up. High altitude extraction platform. Peak of Mount Shuxin. Elevation 9,100 feet. They aren't coming for us on the ground. They're picking up survivors who can climb above the cloud layer. But there's a note next to the extraction protocol. Warning: bioscans in effect. No infected personnel will be boarded. I stared at my arm. I'm infected. If I climb that mountain, if I cross the bridges I saw, the web of vines, and I reach the peak, they will scan me, and they will shoot me. Unless, I scrolled down, Medical Protocol 9, antifungal treatments. There is a formula, a chemical compound. Bleach isn't enough. Fire isn't enough. You need a fungicide mixed with high concentrations of sulfur. I looked at the inventory list of the depot. Sulfur canisters, industrial, check.
Ammonia, check. I can make the cure, or at least a treatment to mask the scan. But I have to mix it, and I have to inject it, and then I have to climb a mountain that is literally alive and trying to eat me. I was just about to start gathering the chemicals when I heard it. A sound. Not from outside, from the vent, the air shaft I crawled through. Scrape, scrape, scrape. I froze. I squeezed through that vent. It was tight. Nothing big could fit through there. But the scraping sound is rhythmic. It sounds like claws on metal. And then a voice. Not a human voice. It sounded like a parrot mimicking a human, but with a throat full of gravel. Elias. My name. How does it know my name? I grabbed the axe. I backed into the comms room and locked the heavy steel door. The scraping is getting louder. It's in the utility room now. It dropped down from the vent. I hear footsteps in the hallway, wet, slapping footsteps. It's stopping at the door. Open, the voice wheezed. Cold, so cold. It sounds like Eris, but Eris is 60 miles away. Eris died in a hole. Unless the network connects them, unless the Queen shares memories. I'm looking at the vent in the comms room ceiling. It's small, 6 inches wide, not small enough for a body, but maybe not small enough for vines. I see a green tendril curling out of the vent grill above the computer. They're inside. The bunker is compromised. I have the chemicals. I have the map. I have the axe. I can't stay here. There is a rear exit, an emergency maintenance hatch that leads to the cliff face, a narrow ledge. It leads toward the mountain, toward the bridges. I'm grabbing the recorder. I'm grabbing the sulfur. I am not dying in a concrete box. Eris, or whatever is wearing Eris's voice, is pounding on the door now. The steel is denting. Time to go.
I am outside. I am clinging to the side of a mountain like a barnacle. The maintenance hatch opened onto a service ledge, a strip of concrete barely 2 feet wide, running along the cliff face behind the depot. To my left, the bunker wall. To my right, a 300-foot drop into the yellow fog. I didn't close the hatch behind me. I couldn't. I jammed it with the crowbar from my pack just to buy a few seconds, but I can hear it. Bang! The thing inside, the thing wearing Aris's voice, is throwing itself against the opening. It's too big to fit through easily. It's tearing itself apart to get to me. I can hear wet, snapping sounds, bones breaking to fit through a narrow frame. I'm moving fast, or as fast as I can in this damn yellow suit. The ledge ends about 50 yards up. It transitions into natural rock, and that's where the bridge starts. I can see it now, illuminated by the moonlight. God, it's revolting. From the tower, the bio-bridges looked like elegant webs. Up close, it looks like the inside of a throat. It connects the depot spur to the main flank of Mount Shuksan. It spans a gap of maybe 200 yards. It's made of woven vines, each one as thick as a tree trunk, braided together into a massive suspended artery. It's pulsing. I can feel the vibration through the soles of my boots. Thump, 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 thump. The wind is screaming up here. It's cold, freezing cold, but the bridge is steaming. It's generating heat. I have to cross it. It's the only way to the peak. If I try to climb down into the valley and walk up, the fog will kill me in minutes. The bridge is high enough. It arches over the cloud layer. I'm at the end of the concrete. I'm stepping onto the biomass. It's soft, spongy, like walking on a waterbed filled with meat. My boots sink an inch with every step. Squelch. The Aris thing is on the ledge behind me. I can hear it screeching, a sound of pure frustration. It won't follow me onto the bridge. Why? Is it afraid of heights? Or is the bridge hallowed ground? I'm walking. Don't look down. Don't look at the fog. Look at the mountain. I am halfway across. The smell up here is overpowering, even through the filters. It's the smell of raw growth, hormones, pheromones.
The bridge isn't passive, it's reacting to me. Small tendrils, cilia like on a sea anemone, are reaching up from the floor of the bridge, brushing against my boots. They are tasting the rubber. And there are passengers. Embedded in the walls of the vine tunnel are shapes, animals, or what used to be animals. I just passed a bear, a black bear. It's fused into the structure. Only its head and one paw are visible. The rest of it has been subsumed by the vines, converted into structural mass. Its eyes are open. They are glowing green. It's watching me. It let out a low moan as I passed. Not a roar, a moan of exertion. It's not dead. It's a battery. It's powering this thing. I'm trying not to vomit inside my helmet. Wait. Movement ahead. Something is blocking the path. It's not an animal. It's a node, a knot of tissue in the center of the bridge, about 10 feet high. It looks like a tumor. It's opening. It's splitting down the middle. Sssss. Gas. It's venting gas. A cloud of purple spores is venting directly into my path. I can't walk through that. My mask is good for particulate matter, but a direct chemical assault? I have the flare gun. I promised myself I'd save the flares for the extraction, for the signal. But if I don't get past this sphincter thing, there is no extraction. I'm loading a shell, red phosphorus. I'm aiming right at the center of the split. Thoom! The flare hits the wet tissue with a wet flack. It doesn't explode. It burns. Magnesium and phosphorus at 2,000 degrees. The bridge screams. The entire structure convulses. The floor beneath me bucks like a horse. I fall to my knees. The node is shrieking, a high-pitched tea kettle sound. The fire is eating into the wet flesh, cauterizing it, boiling the sap. The purple gas stops. The node recoils, shrinking back, leaving a gap just wide enough to squeeze through. I'm running. I'm scrambling on all fours, slipping on the slime, scrambling past the burning meat. The heat is intense. The smell of burning sugar and barbecue is filling the mask. I'm past it. I'm sprinting for the other side. The bridge is shaking violently now. It's trying to shake me off. I can see the rock face of Mount Shuksan ahead. Solid ground. 10 yards. 5 yards. I jump. I land on granite. Hard, cold, indifferent granite. I roll away from the edge. Behind me, the bridge is thrashing in the wind, glowing with the red ember of the flare. I made it. I'm on the mountain.
I climbed for another hour. The air is thinner here, harder to breathe, but cleaner. The fog is a yellow ocean far below me. I found a shallow cave, a windbreak in the rock face, sheltered from the elements. I have to do it now. The infection on my arm is reacting to the bridge. The proximity to the hive structure accelerated it. I took the bandages off. My arm, it's glowing, bright enough to read by. The violet light is pulsing in time with my heartbeat. The veins running up toward my shoulder are turning black. It's spreading. If I show up at the extraction point like this, the bioscanners will flag me before I even wave hello. They'll incinerate me. I have the chemicals I stole from the depot. Sulfur powder, ammonia, cleaning grade, a bottle of fungicide, gardening concentrate, a syringe from the first aid kit. I am not a chemist. I am an engineer. But chemistry is just mixing variables until you get the desired reaction. I'm using a metal tin cup to mix it. Sulfur goes in. Yellow powder. Ammonia. It hisses. Fungicide. Blue liquid. It's turning into a sludge. A thick gray paste. It smells like hell. The computer log said inject subcutaneously at the site of infection. I have to inject this sludge under the rash. I'm shaking. I'm terrified. This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt so much. I'm filling the syringe. It's thick. I have to pull hard on the plunger. Okay. Belt in my mouth to bite down on.
tourniquet tight on the bicep. I'm looking at the glowing violet spot. It looks beautiful in a sick way. It looks like a galaxy. I'm going to kill it. 3, 2, 1. Fire. It's not cold fire anymore. It's magma. I feel it moving up my arm. It's fighting. The fungus, it knows it's dying. It's panicking. I can feel the filaments under my skin thrashing. They are trying to dig deeper, trying to escape the poison I just pumped into them. My vision is going. White flashes. I hear them. Not with my ears. In my head. Static. Buzzing. A billion voices speaking at once. Why? Why hurt? Join. Safe. It's the queen. The neural network. The chemical bridge opened a door before it burned it down. I can see the mountain. Not from here. From inside. I see the roots. They go down miles. Into the magma chamber. The heat feeds the growth. They are scared. They are scared of the cold. They are scared of the sky. Sleep, Elias, sleep. No, no sleep. Sleep is death. I'm crawling. I have to keep moving. If I pass out here, I freeze. The pain it's receding. Or maybe my nerves are just burned out. I look at my arm. The glow is gone. It's ugly. It's a black, charred ruin. The skin is gray and dead, but it's not glowing. I killed the signal. I'm a ghost again. I have to stand up. Up. Go up.
I walked through the night. I don't remember much of it. Just the rhythm of one foot in front of the other. Step, breathe. Step, breathe. The sun is coming up. I am high. I am so high. The altimeter on my watch says 9,000 feet. The vegetation is stopped. There are no vines here, no moss, just bare, wind-scoured rock and ice. The air is crystal clear. It burns my lungs, it's so cold. I can see the peak of Shuksan ahead. And I see it. The platform. It's a metal structure, bolted to the summit. It looks like an oil rig helipad. It's silver, clean, artificial. There are lights on it, strobing white lights. Flash, flash, flash. The evacuation point. It's real. The computer wasn't lying. I'm stumbling. My yellow suit is in tatters. The plastic helmet is cracked. My arm is a dead weight hanging at my side. But I'm smiling. I think I'm smiling. My face is numb, so I can't be sure. I have the flare gun. 2 shells left. I need to signal them. I need to let them know a human is approaching, not a monster. I'm loading the gun. I aim it straight up into the pale blue morning sky. Thoom! A red star rises. It hangs there, burning bright against the dawn. I wait. I watch the platform. A green light flashes in response. Green. Access granted. They see me. I'm dropping the pack. I don't need the water anymore. I don't need the axe. I just need to walk the last 100 yards. But the wind is changing. It's blowing from the south, from the valleys. It's bringing the fog up the cliff face behind me. It's racing me to the top. I have to run. One last sprint, Elias. One last run for the sky. I am running. My legs are lead. My lungs are glass. The fog is nipping at my heels. It's not drifting anymore. It's surging. The heat coming off the wave behind me is palpable. It smells like a greenhouse on fire. I can hear the vines snapping up the cliff face. Crack, crack, crack. They are grappling hooks pulling the biomass up the sheer rock. The queen wants me. She knows I'm escaping. She knows I'm a loose thread in her perfect tapestry. I hit the stairs. Metal. Beautiful, freezing, galvanized steel. My boots clang against the grating. Clang, clang, clang. I scramble up on all fours. The stairs are icy. I slip, barking my shin against the tread, but I don't feel it. I scramble up. The platform is huge. It's a flat expanse of steel mesh bolted to the jagged peak of Mount Shuksan. In the center, there is a landing zone painted with reflective white paint. And standing there, waiting, is the Angel. It's not a helicopter. It's not a plane. It's a heavy-lift, automated VTOL drone. Sleek, angular, painted matte black, with U.S. Air Force stenciled in gray. No cockpit, no windows, just a machine built for one purpose: retrieval. Its rotors are spinning, chopping the thin air. The sound is a high-pitched turbine whine that drowns out the wind. I stumble toward it. The fog crests the edge of the platform behind me. A tendril thick as a python whips over the railing. It smacks against the steel deck, searching. The drone reacts. A turret mounted under the fuselage swivels. It doesn't fire bullets. It fires light. A beam of high-intensity UVC radiation sweeps the platform edge. It hums with a terrifying electrical crackle. Where the light hits the fog, the yellow mist boils away instantly. Where it hits the vine, the plant matter sizzles and turns to gray ash. The drone is sanitizing the LZ. I wave my arms. I'm here! I'm here! A speaker on the drone blasts out, loud enough to shake my bones. Identified. Civilian survivor. Approach the ramp. You have 30 seconds. I sprint to the rear of the drone. A ramp is lowering. Inside, it's not a cabin. It's a white, sterile box, an airlock. I dive inside. I collapse on the metal floor. The ramp hisses shut behind me. The sound of the wind, the turbine, and the screaming mountain cuts off instantly. Silence. Mechanical silence. Decontamination sequence initiated. Close your eyes. I curl into a ball. Jets in the ceiling hiss. A mist sprays down. It smells like bleach and chemical fire. It burns my skin where the suit is torn. It stings my eyes. Then heat. Hot air blasts me, drying the chemicals instantly. Decontamination complete. Bioscan initiated. Present exposed skin. This is it. I stand up. I peel the tattered remains of the yellow slicker off. I take off the cracked plastic helmet. I am standing in my flannel shirt and jeans, shivering. I roll up my left sleeve. My arm is a ruin. It's black, charred, shriveled. It looks like a piece of driftwood found in a campfire. The skin is dead. The nerves are dead. But is the fungus dead? A red laser grid sweeps over me, up and down. It pauses on my arm. Beep, beep. I hold my breath. If it detects active spores, the airlock will vent. It will flush me out the bottom like waste. Scanning. Necrotic tissue detected. Severe chemical burns detected. The laser lingers. Active biological agent, negative. I let out a breath that feels like a sob. Survivor cleared. Welcome aboard. An inner door opens.
I stumble into the main hold. There are no seats, just a crash couch along the wall with a 5-point harness. I buckle myself in. The drone lurches. We are lifting off. I feel the G-force press me into the cushion. We are rising fast, faster than any helicopter. There are no windows, but there is a screen on the wall, an external camera feed. I watch the monitor. I see the platform shrinking below. I see the peak of Mount Shuksan. It's being swallowed. The green tide is washing over the steel platform. The UV turrets are firing, but there are too many vines. The metal structure is buckling, collapsing under the weight of the biomass. We go higher. I see the bio-bridges, those massive, pulsating arteries connecting the mountains. From up here, they look like veins on a decomposing hand. We go higher. I see the cloud layer, an endless ocean of chartreuse fog covering the entire Cascade range. It stretches to the horizon. No trees, no rocks, just the green silence. We punch through the cloud layer. Blue. Deep, dark, stratospheric blue. The sun is blindingly bright. We are safe. We are in the sky. Log entry. Day 45. In transit. I'm drinking water. Real, clear water from a dispenser in the wall. It tastes like metal. It tastes like life. I found a medical kit. I wrapped my arm in sterile gauze. It doesn't hurt. It feels like wood. I don't know if I'll keep the arm. I don't care. It's a small price. I'm looking at the flight path on the monitor. Destination? Anchorage Quarantine Zone, Alaska. They retreated to the cold. Aris was right. The cold is the only defense. I'm safe. But I reach for the recorder. I need to say this while I still remember the feeling. When we lifted off, when we disconnected from the mountain, I felt something. A loss. For weeks I fought the silence. I fought the connection. I burned the bridge in my own blood to stop the Queen from getting in. But for a split second, when the chemical sludge was burning my veins, I heard them. A billion voices, a perfect unity. No loneliness, no anxiety, no fear, just being. I sit here in this sterile metal box, hurtling toward a frozen wasteland, and I am alone again. Silence is heavy. I tap the glass of the monitor. Tap, tap, tap. Why am I tapping? I stopped my hand. My finger was tapping a rhythm. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. The rhythm of the vines on the window. I look at my arm, the charred, dead skin. Deep down, deep in the marrow of the bone, under the burn, it itches just a little.
My name is Elias Thorne. I am a survivor of Project Chloris. I am the man who walked out of the green silence. If you are listening to this, you are probably in a bunker, or on a ship, or huddled in the attic of a house surrounded by trees that are growing too fast. Don't look at the flowers. Don't breathe the yellow dust. And if you hear a voice that sounds like someone you love, but deeper, wetter, don't listen. But if you do listen, if you let it in, I wonder, is it really so bad? The city was noise. The world was chaos. The green is quiet. I'm going to Anchorage. I'm going to let the doctors look at my arm. I'm going to tell them I'm clean. But I brought the recorder, and I brought the jar. The sample jar from day 28. It was in my pocket. I'm looking at it now. The leaf inside is brown, shriveled, dead. But there is a single tiny spore on the glass, glowing violet. I think I'll keep it, a souvenir, or a seed. This is Elias Thorne, Sector 4, Black Ridge, signing off.